welcome to Afterthoughts. We're going to give you our thoughts after we watch something. This is a recommend or refute episode.
That's correct.
Yes,
Or
that's right.
Where we
gonna do a Tim Allen next time.
Yes, so we can get into that, but the voice that you hear first, we have John Garcia.
Hey, I'm looking forward to talking about what I'm bringing here. It's something a little classic, a little classy piece.
Classy.
Oh,
Something classy.
okay.
Okay.
Exciting.
All right. And also joining us, Michael Dixon.
yeah, what's up, guys? Excited to dive in this week. I think we all have some interesting things to talk about. So
Yeah, you're bringing classy stuff too, aren't you?
very classy.
All right.
Yeah.
All class on
Okay,
this
it's all
podcast.
class.
I don't believe you though, John.
No trash, just class, baby.
All class, no ass. Okay.
That's right.
Yes, and I didn't introduce myself. I am Ryan King, your host for today, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Dixon, though. What do you have, and do you recommend or refute it?
Yeah, so this week I made a deal with my lady friend. She's very into Disney, and I was like, well, I have a Criterion Blu-ray of the 1946 black and white French film Beauty and the Beast, and I have not seen either of the Disney versions of it or the original before this past week. And so I made a deal with her. I was like, I will watch the 2 Disney movies with you if you watch this old black and white French movie with me. So she reluctantly agreed, and we embarked upon this journey this past week. The 1946 Jean Cocteau Beauty and the Beast is one of Nick Cage's favorite movies, and so I was, of course, drawn to it and interested to check it out. It's based on the French fairy tale from, I believe, the 1700s, and the Cocteau movie is very, it's much more true to the original fairy tale. You know, a lot of times fairy tales are made by Disney, and they are Disneyfied, and they take out a lot of the darker elements of the story and make it a little more kid-friendly. The Cocteau movie doesn't do that, which is pretty cool. There are a lot of gothic horror vibes and almost film noir aesthetic to it that I really dug. It is, the classic story of Beauty and the Beast. Unlike me, you've probably seen one of these 3 movies before this past week, so you probably generally know the story. But, it takes place in a small French town, and this girl named Belle is the youngest daughter of this family. The father is formerly wealthy and has gone into debt because he is a shipping merchant and has several ships that are supposed to come in and have not, and have been lost or taken over by pirates or whatever overseas, and he hasn't gotten the goods. And so he has creditors down his throat on him and his son, who are trying to get paid or take all their shit. And he thinks that he gets news that one of his ships might have made it through, and he thinks that he's actually going to be able to collect on some of these goods. So he asks his daughters if they want anything. He has 2 older daughters who are very vain and obsessed with appearances. I don't know why every fairy tale has like shitty sisters in it. But they're like, oh, we want fancy dresses and shit. And then he asks Belle, and she's like, I would just like a rose. That's it. And so he goes off to try to get his ship. Turns out the ship has not made it into port, and he has to journey back home in the dark of night and gets lost in the woods, stumbles across the beast in the enchanted forest. The beast says, hey, I'm gonna, capture you and hold you prisoner for stealing a rose from my garden, or you can go home and send one of your daughters in your place. So a little bit different than the Disney story and kind of the setup and the construct there. But, obviously, Belle ends up going in his place and gets, is a prisoner of the beast in his haunted mansion. Like, this thing looks fucking great. I also watched Persona this week, which is, like a acclaimed Ingmar Bergman film that all like film critics love. Beauty and the Beast was by far the most stunning movie that I watched this week from a visual perspective. It is just, it's so incredible the way they do it. It's shot in black and white in these dark forest aesthetic, and also inside the mansion in these dark caverns. And the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast, you have like, oh, there's like the candlestick that's come to life and the clock and shit.
Yeah.
And they like walk around and sing songs. In this, there are no other characters in the house other than Beauty and the Beast, but like all of the torches on the wall are held by human arms that are just sticking out of the wall and just holding the torches, and the arms will like move as people are walking down the hall. There are like sculptures of like stone faces into the side of the wall or around the fireplace, and occasionally they will just like blink, and it's much creepier in the way that it's set up. And none of these characters, these human-esque beings ever come to life and sing a song or talk to anybody, but there's a very eerie presence throughout the film, and it has much more of a creepy horror vibe than the Disney versions do. I just kind of fell in love with the aesthetic of this movie and how it's lit. Like, it's just incredible. It looks incredible in black and white. Jean Cocteau actually wanted to shoot it in color, but it was made in 1946, and like France didn't have any money at the time because the World War II had just ended, so he like couldn't afford color film. But I can't imagine this thing in color. Like, it looks so fucking incredible in black and white. The set design is incredible. Like, the money that they couldn't afford for film went into the costumes and the sets and all of that, and it just looks. Every scene looks absolutely gorgeous, and I was just kind of in awe of the movie as I was watching it. It kind of felt like just watching looking at a painting. It just was so beautifully constructed. But I really enjoyed it. The ending scene is really powerful, where spoiler alert for Beauty and the Beast, the Beast turns into a handsome prince, and they like live happily ever after or whatever. But Cocteau wanted to shoot the final scene in a way that you were like not sure if it was a happy ending, and he said that he designed it so that like people would prefer the Beast and be disappointed in the ending, that he actually turned into a prince. And he said he got a lot of like hate mail after the movie from people who saw the film and were like, I wanted the Beast to actually like stay the Beast and to win the love of Beauty and not turn into this prince. So he kind of wanted to cast a traditional marriage as a prison and not necessarily the thing that you want to achieve in life, something that you think you might want but is actually disappointing when you actually get it. And the way the last scene is done, it's like that message is there, but only if you're kind of aware of it and looking for it. And it's interesting how he kind of walks the line with that. But I thought it was just an incredibly beautiful film and really enjoyed it. It's all practical effects, obviously. Just a dude in makeup as the Beast. It took this guy 5 hours to get into makeup every day to do all that. And, it kind of like the Beast costume, maybe isn't the greatest looking thing you've ever seen. We've clearly gotten better in practical effects with stuff like The Thing and other movies that we've talked about where, we've kind of gotten further in that in movies. But man, this thing is just one of the most beautifully shot films that I've ever seen. And like kind of like the way that a dark fairy tale should be, where it's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. And it's just a really cool aesthetic that they're able to build in this film. So I really dug it. I watched both Disney versions after this. I thought the animated one was fine. I had always heard that the 91 animated Beauty and the Beast was actually a really great movie and one of the best things Disney has ever done, and actually a piece of high art. And then I watched it and I was like, it was fine. And then I'd also heard that the live action version from 2017 was the best live action remake that Disney has ever made.
No.
And I might agree with that statement, but it's just such a low bar that like it wasn't a good movie. Like Beauty and the Beast animated version, like barely made it over the line for me. It was like, okay, this is fine. I'll give it a very unenthusiastic thumbs up. The live action one was an unenthusiastic thumbs down. Like, it's just kind of a copy of that. I don't think any of the Disney quote unquote live action remakes are good. But I didn't hate it like I hated Lion King or something like that. But yeah, I think if you like the Disney Beauty and the Beast movies, I would encourage you to check out the 1946 Jean Cocteau version because I think it's much more adult in what it's trying to do, but it is tapping into that kind of, childlike fairy tale wonder at the same time as it is portraying the story in a little bit more adult fashion. So I really dug it. Would definitely recommend people check it out.
Yeah. I absolutely did not like the live action Beauty and the Beast. Go figure. That just felt like vomiting in my eyes. Like all of the CGI was just so aggressively.
Yeah, these live action movies that
flat.
have very little live action in them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't remember the animated one that much. Like I remember the songs. That's like from any Disney movie though. Like I remember the songs.
At least the songs were original for that. And when you animate furniture in anthropomorphic ways, I think hand-drawn animation leads itself a lot better to that than when you try to CGI a candlestick and make it look realistic but also fanciful. It just doesn't really work to the same degree. Yeah. And also Ewan McGregor plays the fucking candlestick and I hate that guy.
How dare you?
So,
that man is a national treasure.
Name one thing that he's ever been good in.
Big Fish? He was fun in Big Fish.
He was fine in Big Fish.
Yes, that's right. You know what I would have loved to have seen the Candlestick animated live in is like a Clue movie where he has to be, he's fucking culpable for the murder of somebody. Like there's a lot of questions.
It was the candlestick in the conservatory.
Exactly.
No, it wasn't with the candlestick. It was the candlestick.
It just was it.
Look at that fucker. He's guilty.
You could tell.
The live action one, like the sound mixing on the singing fucks it up.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to like correct the actors singing and it actually makes it worse.
I thought the sound was bad, but also I was watching it on my girlfriend's television through the television speakers, and so I wasn't sure.
That mask.
It's bad. It's weird. Yeah, and some of the things about the living furniture and shit opens up even more horrible questions than the original.
Here he goes. I knew this would happen.
But the animated one, like it is a big deal for animation. Like it is really high quality. There are some really amazing things that they did. Like that does always impress me, and it holds up there. I'm a Gaston apologist. I think he gets a bad rap.
Bold claim.
He thinks he's a good guy, and everyone in town treats him like he is.
Yeah, this is
and
the
he's just
problem
doing
of
what you
social
would
delusion.
normally do. Yeah, he's just going to save a girl who's captured and held against her will. Like
he's trapped in toxic masculinity, and he's promoted by the entire
system,
townsfolk.
Yeah, the system holds him up.
He seems to be very, very strongly in favor of his own vapid bullshit, and like not like he doesn't like the fact that Belle reads. Like they paint him as a pretty awful dude.
Well, the rest of that town also doesn't like it and shits on her. So really, the whole town is pretty horrible.
Oh yes, agreed. Yeah.
Also, like I remember I think my sister-in-law was telling me that in that movie they animate like breast jiggle physics for some of the characters.
Oh,
for those
like some
blonde
women
girls
that,
in the
the women who sit around the well, like one of them they just like rest their bosom right upon the well thing, and it just jiggles along, and they were like, is this,
you know what, I take it back, this movie's better than I thought it was.
The attention to detail is chef's kiss.
Really moving breast animation forward to new heights.
Hey, gotta take your wins where you can, anatomically and otherwise.
Have either of you seen the Jean Cocteau Beauty and the Beast?
You know I haven't.
I assume
I know.
I had to ask.
I watched Sorcerer before I watched Wages of Fear. I haven't seen French films before I've seen the Americanized version.
Yes. Yeah. Same-ish. Yeah. I do like the what you're saying about the twist with the ending there, because the original Beauty and the Beast story being a story about arranged marriage, right? Like that's what it is a cover for. So having this sort of like dark view of that marriage, like that is an interesting take.
Yeah.
So I definitely would want to see that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's shot so beautifully. It's this moment where like the beast transforms into this prince, and Belle is like, "Oh," and she's like not enthusiastic about it, but then she just kind of gives in, and she's like, "Okay, cool," and then they like ascend into the clouds, and there's this beautiful shot that ends the movie, and it's just gorgeous to look at, but you're like, I don't know if she's into this, and if this is actually the path that she wants her life to take. but she is just kind of stuck with it.
Well, you know what? It sounds like Belle's a shallow bitch, so.
Because she likes hairy dudes?
Yeah, except she's really into one. She was like, oh, you're completely different physically than what I thought you were.
I take it you're not following it up with the 1980s television show of Beauty and the Beast?
Starring the what? I'm sorry.
Starring Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman as the Beauty.
Oh, Ron Perlman was in there.
What? How have I never heard of this?
Yes, I remember that in the late 80s. I was fascinated by it. And it totally is like just a drama. Like it's this regular television drama that was trying to like take the Beauty and the Beast. Actually, in thinking about this, I had forgotten, but now remember there also was like a 2019 TV show Beauty and the Beast that like ran for seasons on I think the WB or CW or whatever.
How much plot is there to tell? How do they stretch this out this long?
They have writers. They know. They can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. 2019.
So no. The 80s one was the Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman is the guy you would cast as the Beast. That does make sense.
Right.
But I don't know that you could ever turn him into a handsome prince. I don't think that works.
Well, it was a TV show, so it never is going to get around to that. Yeah. You got to cancel the show if you turn him into a prince. Yeah. I remember it having a weird...
Oh, that's what you look like. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it. I joked with my girlfriend in the animated one when he turns into a human, and she kind of looks at him weird for a second. And I was like, she's thinking, "Oh, you're a redhead. Interesting."
Oh, jeez. Don't have many of those in France. How does he get cursed, or do they not even mess with it in the 46?
Yeah.
They do mention it. It's not as explicit in the Disney versions. Like, oh, he was a douchebag, and then this like witch
like 14.
Cursed him to be a beast. Like, it was. He just makes a vague reference to like, my parents didn't believe in spirits, and so they took it out on me or something. Like, they don't really care about why he is the way he is.
Yeah, no, I think that's bullshit in the Disney ones. I'm not a witch apologist because fucking the kid's like 14 and there's a stranger. Like, I don't think he should get that punished for making a poor decision as a child.
Yes, no. In the Disney movie, they say that they put a curse on him until his 21st year. And like once at the end of the 21st year, he can't become a human again.
Or isn't,
but then they make a comment later that it's been 10 years. And I was like, wait a minute, this kid was 11, and they like cast this evil spell on him. He has undergone puberty while a beast. Like,
and not just that, you also wrap up all these completely unrelated people who did absolutely nothing and torture them for 10 years.
And I think it is like they're trying to pull from the 1946 film to like, there was like stuff that was like alive in the mansion, and like, what if we make them happy creatures that sing fun songs, and let's Disneyfy the shit out of this. But I think it works a lot better in the Cocteau version, where it's literally just her and the beast in the house, and she is terrified, and like anytime she leaves a room, there's like weird stone creatures blinking at her, or weird human arms waving torches around in the hallways. Like it's pretty scary the way they frame it.
Not as scary as the horror of someone in town who's like, my husband never came back, and then 10 years later he shows up and is like, I was a toilet brush for 10 years and I'm back now.
The horror. They put tea in me. I just want to say that there was also so I'm familiar with all the Soviet era films too, and there's a similar Beauty and the Beast.
You're familiar with all the Soviet era films?
Quite a bit of Soviet era films. I've watched a good number of them. Good number of the ones that made it to the stateside, I guess. I don't know, but there's one called Morozka that's like Frosty, and it's about Old Man Winter, but really it's also a Beauty and the Beast story.
Oh.
And it's about like a prince who's conceited who crosses an old woman, or maybe like a mushroom wizard. I don't fucking know. And he gets turned into a bear man, and then has to like meet Belle in a Russian village where she has shitty stepsisters. Like, what's up with that?
Yep.
Always the thing.
Cinderella. The
they're
shitty
all
sisters.
I feel like it's like a pitting women against women thing. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But it really feels like some of your sisters are going to fucking suck, and you should watch out for them, sort of thing.
They're catty motherfuckers, aren't they?
But that entire movie is just hilarious because they like literally just put the shittiest bear mask on a dude and have him wander around blind in the forest trying to do shit. I highly recommend watching that as a supplement to your French Beauty and the Beast.
What were you talking, like 50s?
65.
Okay.
Like 60s-ish sort of thing.
Nice,
but yeah.
nice.
Not Tarkovsky.
Not Tarkovsky, and it's played comedically, and it's played comedically poorly.
Oh no, that sounds bad.
So there are parts where you're like, "Oof, that didn't work out that well." But there are other parts where it's legitimately funny because they put an actor in a mask they can clearly not see out of. Got a lot of cultural differences too, where you're like, "Well, I guess that was just a thing that they thought would be funny or is supposed to resonate. It doesn't." But it's an interesting oddity I've had to watch, and kind of like my educational phase of learning Russian. And I was like, all right, that was a thing. It was fucking wild. Kind of like a bootleg of all the things that you've probably known from fairy tales. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting. All this to say, Hollywood, I would like to see Nicolas Cage in a live action Beauty and the Beast movie. Please make that happen.
Hollywood, bring back German expressionism.
Yes.
Bring it back hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also want to see Nick Cage's Dracula, not in Renfield.
Yes.
Like actually in Dracula movie
Dracula.
shot in black and white. But that's never happening.
Somebody needs to fund it. Somebody will.
Yeah.
So that's a recommend for the 46 Beauty and the Beast and a shrug for the Disney ones.
A shrug for the animated one and a thumbs down for the live action.
Wow, it's just a descent down.
Yeah.
It just is getting worse. Yeah. It's just more and more diluted.
Yeah.
All right, John, what classy thing quote did you watch?
Well, I watched a little classy feature starring a certain classy Rat Pack member known as Dean Martin. Maybe y'all know about him. He sings about several things. He croons about them sometimes. And, with us watching Black Dynamite, some other stuff, I thought, hey, I'll look up and see what are some other pieces of black cinema from the 70s I can watch. And Dean Martin was in a movie called Mr. Rico, directed by Paul Bogart, who's...
Bogart?
Yeah, he's bogarting the credits.
Is he related to Humphrey?
I don't think so. This movie, so... just to kind of give you the high level of how it feels from a vibe standpoint, this is like if Dirty Harry had kind of a Bressonian vibe to it. They were following like a background character in Dirty Harry who didn't fucking matter. The SFPD, they're doing fucked up shit. They're corrupt police force. But let's follow this geriatric across the plains of a golf course as he tries to get the last bits of toothpaste out of a tube. Why
John,
not?
I gotta say, these are two things that I very much love, but this sounds like a terrible combination of the two. Did you watch anything else this week?
I should change my recommend?
Yeah,
this sounds
watch something
like we're
else.
putting the listeners to sleep.
Okay. Well, all the people out there who love Dean Martin, I'm sorry, but I got to pivot. The people want what they want. So I guess we'll do something a little more.
I would imagine
punchy.
The concentric circles of people who like Dean Martin and people who listen to our podcast just don't overlap.
That's pretty limited.
The Venn diagram.
You left out the people who love black cinema too, but I get your point. There's probably a really narrow bullseye to hit with that dart that I would throw. So. Fuck it. We're close to spooky season, right? I'll just pivot. I watched a few horror movies recently. I'm catching up on some of my spooky shit. And I just decided I have a 4K copy of 1979's The Amityville Horror.
It's the kind of house they don't build anymore. A relic of a time when the world wasn't in such a hurry. When there was still time for a little charm and elegance. It has stood empty for a long while, and at the price, it is a bargain. For a growing young family, it is almost too good to be true.
What do you think?
I love it.
James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger in the Amityville Horror.
I know.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Well, you haven't seen it, but apparently all of America has, because there's just a cranked out franchise of all of these fucking trash films.
Yeah, there are like 10 of them, right?
There's
been
fucking
dragged
like 60 of these.
Oh,
Yes.
They have. So Amityville Horror, for those who don't know, the 1979 movie is an adaptation of a book based on a story told by a man who's clearly a charlatan, who just wanted to fucking exploit the fact that he moved his family into a house where a bunch of murders happened. There was like a family that was murdered in a house in Amityville. And this guy, by the last name of Lutz, George Lutz, I think is his full name. He was
Lionel Hutz?
Lionel Lutz. Lionel Lutz there, everybody.
No, muddy down.
I'm not wearing a tie at all. That's complete non sequitur. But yeah, George Lutz, he decided he had just married into a family. He has a loving wife and I think 3 stepchildren. And he was like, we're going to buy a house for $80,000 because it's the murder house that like 7 people were killed in this terrible tragedy in 1976.
Frankly, that sounds like a great financial
Or
decision.
1975. Yeah, right.
Good for
Honestly.
that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? It turns out that the house is allegedly haunted. And so the family moved out after 28 days of living there. They sold the rights of the book to some author. I can't remember who the fuck wrote it. It came out the exact same year as The Shining by Stephen King. The book did. And then the movie came out 1 year before The Shining by Stanley Kubrick.
Are there twins?
There are not twins.
Is there a hedge maze?
There is not a hedge maze, but there is a man staring down the barrel of the camera and looking very fucking deranged.
Okay.
For good portions of
all
this
right.
movie.
No
So
TV and no beer make Homer something.
So we follow the character George Lutz, played by James Brolin, and his wife, who is played by Margot Kidder, Kathy Lutz, and then all of their kids. And even the mayor from Jaws, the guy who plays the mayor of Amityville, is Amity. Sorry, Amity.
Yeah.
Amity.
Is Amityville just Amity?
It's just
Is it in Massachusetts? Is it a beach town in
Yeah, some of
Massachusetts?
yeah, it should be. We can't close down this house. Amityville needs summer dollars, and this
4th of July is when we make all our money.
You gotta have the blood run down the walls during October. You can't interrupt the ghosts, okay? So they move into this house, and this movie is a significantly slower burn than I thought it would be. I'm not sure if it's like a 70s thing, because I think about like, John Carpenter's Halloween, where there's pretty slow pacing to that of like stalking and kind of layering in that creepiness. But I still feel like there are a lot of creature features around that time that are like, get the monster out of the way. Like, oh, it's scary. Or, oh, it's, a man in a rubber suit. You can make out now, teenagers.
Yeah.
Amityville starts very innocently with like almost a documentarian thing. Like this family is moving into this house on this date. And then every few scenes, they're like, it's this day in terms of them moving in and like living there. And you watch as different characters come and go and like have different experiences within the house. And it's conjuring this kind of atmosphere of evil. Truth be told, one of the things I really liked about it is compared to like a lot of the other stuff in the 70s, like you have The Exorcist and some of these other movies that like all hinge on a battle of faith and like God can save you in some way if you're really powerful enough to expel the demons. This house doesn't give a fuck about priests.
Yeah.
This house will choke the shit out of a priest. And honestly, I'm here for it. It like chokes a nun when she walks into it, like immediately. She's just like, I have to leave. And it's just like about to retch and vomit.
But if it was Max von Sydow, he would overcome that shit.
Yeah, exactly. And the entire movie is the slow descent. Like there are practical effects that are, I wouldn't say that they're like great, but they're essential to building that character. Like they get like a shit ton of flies to fill a room, and it makes it kind of creepy and has this sort of decaying vibe to it. And characters, the acting is really great. I would say for a lot of the sequences where people are really selling that either they're slowly falling down this, like not getting as much sleep, they're deranged. Really good progression of makeup. Like people just like James Brolin's character throughout the entire movie, he looks more and more deranged as each day passes. His eyes get more and more bloodshot. His face gets more and more pale. They do a good job keeping that continuity and having it there. There are other things where it's just like, they just throw jump scares in for fun because they think the audience might be asleep by how slow things are moving. Like Sasha was watching it with me. She started to sleep like halfway through. And then a cat was just like, meow, and she was like, oh, fuck. And it was literally like, it's like the bird in Citizen Kane that comes out of nowhere to like wake you up. I enjoy the atmosphere of it. I liked it. I would recommend it. I think that in terms of the house itself, there are like whispers people hear. There's some solutions where they're like, or they try to explain some of it away with like, oh, it was built during like the witch trials and like this man was killed and his family was slaughtered.
So it was in Massachusetts.
It is in Massachusetts. You're actually right. Yes. I've forgotten up until this point that it did take place in Massachusetts.
Is the house haunted by sharks?
It is not haunted by sharks.
God damn it.
But the mayor of Jaws plays a priest who is like, literally like, just don't fuck with it. Whatever it is, don't fuck with it. To like every other priest, he's like, we don't go to that house. It's fine.
Very the opposite of his character in Jaws.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Please fuck with it.
He has like a police and the Yakuza kind of relationship where he's like, look, that house is going to fucking kill who it's going to kill. We're just over here being Catholic. It's fine. Even the main priest who tries to cleanse the house, he makes a whole pulpit speech and is like trying to bless it from the chapel. And he goes fucking blind physically. This is what I liked about it compared to The Exorcist. Religion does not save you in this movie. Nothing can save you. And this house is just evil. And I kind of dug that from an approach to horror. It was like you just will never understand what it is. The only thing that was kind of dumb is towards the end, everybody's like running out of the house and trying to like, just get out of there. Fucking why not? That's the most rational thing anybody could do. But the moment they get into a van and are driving away, one of the kids is like, we left the dog. And I was like, just fucking leave the dog. Okay. Dogs can sense evil. We all know this. That dog would fucking be out of there soon. But no, the dad has to go back and save the dog and this other shit. And it's bullshit.
It's like The Shining. Oh no, we left grandpa back at the gas station.
Yes. Yeah, I would say the only thing that I don't really like about this movie is that it spawned a whole franchise.
Yeah,
because
have you seen any of those sequels?
I haven't, but I have one of them on 4K as well. It's
Of
the
course you
third movie. It's Amityville 1993.
Oh.
And it's called Amityville 1993: It's About Time. And it's about time travel, Dixon.
God damn.
And
Did
it has
Christopher Nolan direct this shit?
He probably did. The lead character's name, funnily enough, is Protagonist.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, like apparently because Amityville is a town that is in the public domain, anybody can use Amityville, and anybody can use the image of the house to make a movie based on any of the events that happened there.
Just the word Amityville is public domain?
The entire like experience, because it took place in a house that's a public area that has this, basically like there's a legal gray area where nobody can claim copyright about it. So everybody can make Amityville movies, which is why there's been like 60 Amityville.
God, there's so many. I'm scrolling through.
Oh, it's nuts.
You're never going to reach
and they're coming. They're still coming out. There's fucking shit on Tubi probably from last week that fucking has Amityville.
God, there's a Ryan Reynolds remake from 2005.
Yes, and that's what Sasha remembered when she was like, I watched this. Oh, this isn't the same one.
Same title, The Amityville Horror. Same thing. Not like The Suicide Squad. Like it's the same fucking title.
Drop the.
Yeah.
But I bring this up because, and I know somewhere out there, a listener who's a filmmaker would love this idea, but I tried to look as best I could for an Amityville movie that wasn't cash in exploitation, something that was, you know, I've been on my Paul Verhoeven kick. I've been talking about that. Something that's a little more tongue in cheek satire, you know? And I really want to see, because I read the Wikipedia article on this, so you know I'm an expert. About George Lutz, the man who told this story to an author who wrote it, the man who married that family and moved them into this haunted house. And apparently George Lutz has not been a successful businessman. He's not been a successful anything as far as I know, allegedly. And he sued his own stepson because his stepson contradicted his story about the Amityville Horror.
Oh.
So I'm pitching this movie to anybody out there who's interested. Make the Amityville Horror, but it's with a WHORER. And it's the story of George Lutz fucking exploiting the shit out of a murder in the 70s and turning this house into some kind of fucking bullshit franchise that can be, you know, a moneymaker and a cash cow for Hollywood. Wouldn't that be fun to see? Wouldn't that be just the most cynical, bitter fucking incarnation of this horror story?
I'm going to say no.
I think it would be kind of fun, especially if the twist is that house actually is haunted and we do an alternate timeline where George Lutz gets fucking tormented by it. I would enjoy that. George Lutz lives in Las Vegas, Nevada now, go figure, and sues his stepchildren from several miles away. Who knows?
Wow, what a dick.
Yeah, exactly. This is all according to a
So
Wikipedia
that sounds
article.
like he invented this entire thing, yes.
I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that. And it would be fun to see some alternate timeline where, I don't know, people tell a story that's interesting and engaging that's not schlocky exploitation on jump scares.
John, what do you think the Metacritic score is for the Amityville Horror?
68?
28.
Oh,
wow.
critic score?
Yeah.
Oh, I was
28.
saying audience score. My
No, the
bad.
Metacritic score.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only, they don't do audience scores.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, that's not a Rotten Tomatoes thing. Gotcha.
It's 6.2 on IMDb, but it's 28 Metascore.
See, I got the
Wow.
IMDb score down almost.
Yeah, you're on the right track. The other thing about Amityville Horror that I hate is that the Warrens got involved with that shit, and that's how they
Yes.
got big. And then
The
all
Warrens?
that's
Elizabeth
the
Warren
Warrens-
and whatever his name
Really?
is. The Conjuring
Yeah,
Warrens.
Ed, I
Everybody knows
think.
them.
yeah, they were
Wait, the
paranormal
senator?
investigators.
Not sorry. Is it Elizabeth Warren? No, it's not. Elaine
no,
Warren.
it's Ed and isn't it right? I don't remember. We've already forgotten their names.
Our most famous Native American senator, Elizabeth Warren?
She is gonna have a beer.
Yeah. It's Lorraine.
Lorraine
Back to the
Warren.
Future
Ed
Lorraine.
and Lorraine Warren. I combined them to be Elaine Warren.
Elaine Warren.
They're a power couple that are demonologists.
Yeah. They were paranormal investigators. They had, and they're fucking hacks, just like Lutz.
Allegedly, Ryan. Allegedly.
No. And they'd already been like trying. They found a doll or were trying it was haunted or whatever, and all this other crap. And then when they started getting Amityville Horror became a phenomenon that people were interested in, they got big in investigating it and backing up the claims that the house was haunted. And then they proceeded to sell their stories, and fucking all of the Conjuring and the Annabelle and fucking the Nun or whatever is all shit that's all based on their findings.
Oh.
It all
Yeah.
stems back to Amityville Horror. And there is a Raggedy Ann doll in the Amityville Horror for no reason at one point. So I'm just saying, you know.
Yes, just to reference
Just
it or
bringing it up.
whatever. Yeah.
I would, but by the way, I would recommend this movie. I would not recommend the people behind it.
Okay.
Um,
You said you have Amityville 3 on 4K. It's called Amityville 3D, right? Is it in 3D
is
and
that
on
3D?
4K?
I thought.
Yeah, I thought
was,
it's 3D.
I don't know. I have an Amityville.
I don't think they make 3D movies on 4K. You might maybe they made the 2D version on 4K. But.
Maybe I have the wrong Amityville 3D that I think about. I don't know. I have Amityville 1993 : It's About Time. Okay, I don't know.
Oh,
which one that
that's
is.
different. I think the one I saw was from like the 80s. It's called Amityville 3D.
That's not the one. Oh, sorry. It's Amityville 1992. I'm an idiot. It's Amityville 1992 : It's About Time.
Mm.
Directed by Tony Randall.
Hmm.
What?
Not the inspirational speaker.
The
no,
actual
no,
Tony
the
Randall?
public speaker. No. Oh God. Anyways.
Nice.
Yeah. So
So you recommend it?
I recommend it. I think
Yeah.
that in terms of like, it's, you know, it had a lot of vibes that reminded me of The Shining, but The Shining hadn't come out yet. And so it's kind of wild that it channeled that. There are some parts that are a little predictable, and obviously it's going to end a certain way that I've already kind of spoiled. You can go read the Wikipedia article. You already know these people fucking made it out alive, and it's not that big of a deal now, but it has good atmosphere.
According to the real story you told, they
really
just
cool shit.
moved out. Like,
They just fucking
running
literally,
back and saving
that was
the
actually
dog or
the other
anything.
thing was this movie ends with a title scene that felt like an Albert Brooks film.
What?
Where it literally just goes, this entire family left that day. They never went back for their luggage. And it just says it in big, bold letters. And I laughed my ass off at that part.
And that luggage became haunted by demons and were like living candlesticks and clocks and just scared all of future visitors.
But yeah, they've parodied this in several pop culture pop culture entities. Obviously, The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror has one where Bart's like, "Do the blood thing, make the walls bleed."
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that happens here, and it's really cool to see. Like the walls bleed, the stairs bleed. There's a lot of like cool practical effects within it.
The blood usually gets off at the second floor.
But like everything else around it, like some of the acting is really hammy. Some of it is really good, but other stuff is just like, all right, I can just tell that whoever this George Lutz guy is, who's behind the scenes giving creative, insight, he's full of himself. He wants it to seem like he's the fucking hero who saved a goddamn dog and did all this shit for his family. But then he sues his stepson. So, that's how it goes.
Wow.
Anyways,
Stand-up
Ryan,
guy.
what do you fucking
All right,
got?
so that's a recommend for Amityville. I'll shout out real quick. We've brought it up several times, and I think we've recommended Reservation Dogs multiple times. John, you said you had caught up on your own bet against yourself.
Yep.
I did catch up on season 2. Season 3 is ongoing. I think it's finishing soon-ish, but I did get all the way through season 2. And I just want to shout out, since we brought it up, season 2 is interesting, different departure, because there's a lot of episodes, especially in the back half, that involve side characters, and it just entirely follows that side character, and kind of gives you some background on them, their history, what they're doing now. That was pretty interesting. Like it just dug deeper into those things and more emotional highs, while still kind of continuing the story of these kids and the loss of their friend that kicked off this whole show. So yeah, I was really continued to be impressed, and I look forward to season 3. What was your take on season 2, John? Kind of.
Yeah, it's the same thing. This is an interesting show. Just whereas other kind of, I guess, prestige television, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call Reservation Dogs necessarily prestige. It doesn't seem like it gives a fuck about whether or not that's the case. The first season is all getting to know the main cast of characters and the fringe characters around them in the community. And then the second season is, a beautiful blossoming of like getting more time with each of the characters in the community and like spending these moments. And like Bill Burr's in it at one point, and like there's a whole thing with that.
Yeah.
That's fucking great. And there's a bunch of people that you might know and other people that you won't recognize, but like you love each episode. Come out of it at the end and being like, holy shit, that was great. I never expected it to go that place. And it doesn't have to follow it doesn't have to grip the main core plot line the entire way through. So yeah, that's kind of
I would say, Dixon, if you're looking for just one episode to watch, the one where the chief of police accidentally, or I guess he's not the chief, he's just an officer or whatever, where the officer accidentally gets high out of his mind and is
there's
running
one where
through
he
the
drinks
woods.
like a Mountain Dew that has like LSD laced all over it. And he doesn't realize it or
and he
something.
drinks like the whole thing. And then while he's out wandering around in the woods freaking out, he stumbles upon the like white
conspiracy
supremacist group that dress up as salmon.
Yes.
Or no, catfish. They dress up as catfish, the order of the catfish, and have relations with catfish as part of their initiation
This is
ceremony.
like a white supremacist furry group.
Yeah,
or
basically.
something?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
It's pretty
absolutely
awesome.
lampooning
It's
how
so
stupid
bonkers.
white supremacy is and like secret communities.
I think we all
Yeah.
think the mask was a nice idea.
Oh man. Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to that. And then what I was I'll talk a little bit more in depth on. Jimmy had brought up when we had him on as a guest, Jimmy and Erica, that you should watch One Piece, the new live action show.
I'm gonna find the One Piece. It's Gold Roger's treasure. He hid it somewhere in the Grand Line.
It's a myth.
Can't wait to see the look on your face when we find it. But isn't there something that you want? More than anything else in this world. For as long as I can remember, It's been my dream to become King of the Pirates!
King of the Pirates, eh? Some treacherous path.
If the path seems too easy, then you're on the wrong path.
And I had my hesitations. We talked a bit about Cowboy Bebop was terrible, and kind of any other live adaptation has been pretty awful. Mainly, I think, because the American creators trying to bring it over, and this is what was true of early comic book adaptations, are embarrassed by the source material, or they think it's beneath them, and then try to make it into something else, and in doing so just end up with like neither anything good about the original and not something interesting with the new mix. The One Piece show stays very true to the comics and anime. There are the changes in that it's a season, where the way One Piece is run, it's just like continuously running, which is the way they used to do anime. And so they kind of have to give it a little bit more of a clear arc through it versus it sort of just being like story like it is in the comics. So they sort of bring a few things up earlier into this season that were later, but they still flow. And then there's like minor tweaks to characters, one of which is pretty much needed because the character is the classic anime trope. And John, I'm sure you know this, of the dude who's just way too into ladies to a disturbing level.
Yep.
They make him just more of like a romantic, who is into ladies, but not in the like too almost rapey, salty way that sometimes those characters are. So that one's definitely a welcome change. Honestly, the casting is really spot on. The acting is really awesome for these characters. The fact that, like, I was going to say stand out, there is a pirate clown who has the ability to remove his body parts at will. Yeah, and if he's chopped up, he can like just come back into himself. And the fact that it comes off
like a fucking
creepy
tadpole or something.
Yeah, kind of. The fact that he comes off like scary and creepy, honestly, at the beginning, because of the actor, is really good. Like, it's really good that they can balance the sort of ridiculousness of the things that are going on, but still give you like heart and stories that you care about. And I'm like, it's not embarrassed by what it is. The quality of the CGI works. I'll say, like, it works. It's obviously a little tough to do some of the ridiculous stuff, and you can kind of tell, like, it is animation, it is effects, right? Like, it's not necessarily believable. But I think if you're looking at it as like, if it was a cartoon, it's effects, right? You don't really have to, you kind of give into that. I will say I had my family watch it, and so I will give if you have absolutely no clue what the fuck One Piece is, or if you're wondering if you can bring your family to this version of it, it is a little more violent, I think, than the anime was. Not like overtly violent, but sort of like things happen and there's blood, or someone, there's like a person loses an arm, and it is the right amount of weight for that. But I think in the cartoon and the manga, it's a little removed. The comics are all black and white, right? And there's something like with Psycho where it's like not as visceral, still visceral in Psycho, but not as when it's in black and white. They kind of bringing it to this adaptation. They say, I think, shit a lot, a little bit more than the original stuff. So they're kind of like aiming it a little bit higher than the original, which is aimed at like teen boys. I think they're aiming this at the like teen and up to adults level. And I will say, for someone coming like completely outside of it, my family and obviously Darla have no clue on what One Piece is, and they enjoyed it. Like, they were enough, they were like, can we watch another episode? Like, they wanted to get through it. We watched Pirates of the Caribbean earlier. And,
oh no.
Refute that. I fucking hate the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. And got dragged into that. But this was my retribution of like, okay, you want to fucking watch pirates? You go, huh? You want to see some pirates? So I was like, let's watch One Piece. And
you like
the
this,
fact
you
that they
fucking
wanted to
piece
keep
of
going.
shit.
Yeah, you want more of this? So yeah, I recommend it, and this is honestly, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah, no, so generally I'm like, I recommend the One Piece, and kind of, I think, this is something that you can come into. This isn't like an everybody's going to enjoy it, because it is sort of stupid and silly. And there are you have to give up some things because it's live action. There are things that stand out more if you're like, why the fuck are they calling each other on snails? Like, why is that the thing they do?
Sure.
Or I think if you're watching a cartoon, you're just like, meh, snails in this universe, whatever. Like, right, you kind of just already have given up everything.
Are they normal sized, like tiny little snails?
And it depends. Mostly the like ones that are on their desks are like telephone sized, like an old, receiver telephone, and it talks through its mouth. That's how you hear.
It's like some Jetsons, some Flintstones shit. Yeah.
It is exactly. Yeah, it's exactly some Flintstone shit of like a giant snail on your desk that is the phone you use.
Yeah.
Which is just like Oda, the creator. He just, I don't know, his imagination's fucking all over the place. And the fact that they just let it be like, okay, that's what it is. Snail phones. We're gonna do it in live action. We're gonna continue it on.
Well, props to them for fucking doing that and not being like, we're just gonna make it like a rock or something that we can just put a little green screen thing over and fuck it up. Yeah, I was kind of curious about the camp because we talked about it previously, how like trying to translate any kind of cartoon, even like fuck, we've done Speed Racer at one point, and that movie's just like so campy.
Something.
Like you can't not be like, this is insane. This is all absurd.
I lost brain cells.
Yeah,
when we
you
watched
did.
That movie. Yeah. Gone forever.
That's right.
I'll never be who I was before Speed Racer.
But you'll always film good. Yeah, and so like thinking about, even when we were talking with Jimmy, when he was like, yeah, there's a clown that like detaches his body and he has a magic attack called the buggy ball. I was like, what the fuck? This makes no sense. But the fact that you said that it's able to make it creepy and dark, sounds like it tonally walks that line well between being campy and actually engaging. Like, it doesn't distance you with how camp it can be, how like unrealistic.
It mixes them together, right? It mixes them together and balances them. The show does like it just gives in to like camp. Like it's okay, it's campy. The main character calls out the name of his attack before he does it, and it's kind of stupid, but I would say but no, it's stupid, but it's like that's the character. Like you kind of give in to like that's what those people would do.
Yeah.
The main character Luffy is just like so stupidly optimistic, and just like absolutely believes in his like where he's going in his vision and just whatever. And you eventually just sort of like are endeared to it anyway. And so the fact that he is doing these kind of stupid things, you're just sort of like, all right, whatever, that's him. And yeah, so they can go from like the kind of horrifyingness of this clown, potentially like all his body parts. He has like a whole town that he like chains down and makes watch his circus shows. And they're like children like crying because they're locked into their seat to watch this and be told when to laugh. And then it turns around and he gets like blasted like Team Rocket out of the circus tent to tomorrow, right? Like right afterwards. And he comes back.
You made
like,
an
he just
anime
comes back
reference
later.
that I understand.
My God, the stars aligned. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yeah, it sounds like Luffy has big George Bailey energy.
Yes, yeah.
Makes a lot of shitty decisions that he's still endearing.
He has about the intelligence of Uncle Billy and the endearing optimism of George Bailey.
Uncle Billy and the heart of George Bailey. Oh, God. Great. Nice.
So, yep.
I'm
All right,
interested to watch it. Jimmy sent me a text saying that I should follow it. He wanted to know what I would think if I watched it. How many episodes is it again?
Is it like 8 or 10?
It's 8. I looked it up.
It's 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not very long.
I can do that.
Much less
each episode's like an hour.
than the animated version.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Significantly less. I can do 8.
Yeah,
1,076 episodes fewer than the animated version.
Each episode is an arc, essentially, the way that they're doing it. So each one is like an arc, and then the main sort of first chunk is what's this one season. So I would say maybe the first episode is probably like the first 5 episodes of the anime if it's,
Damn.
Putting it up. So they do compact things down a little bit, but I feel like it works,
Power of
And
adaptation.
Yeah.
Do you prefer this version or the animated version?
Ooh, man, I have come and gone from the animated version because it is like 1,000 fucking episodes.
Yeah, you haven't
and it
watched
kinda
all
goes on forever.
1,082 episodes, have you?
I have not watched all 1,000. Yeah, I probably watched the first 400 or 500, which sounds
Holy
ridiculous.
shit. Okay. I mean, I say that in shock. I'm like, I've probably seen that many Simpsons episodes.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it was like that, where you're just watching it over years, and every so often you catch up, and they're like 30 minutes. So every once in a while, you just sit down and watch like 5 or 6 of them in a row, right? And I think that the anime started at a time where there was this transition into now things are seasonal. So up until kind of the mid 2000s, which is the mid 2000s, are we in the mid 2000s? Like the 2010s, or like from like late, turn of the century to the 2010s. They started getting to like, oh, we'll do seasons. And prior to that, it just like ran continuously. Everything just ran continuously. Some shows were on every fucking week. And so they have to fill up time. And sometimes they would catch up with the comic and have to make shit up that just you can tell is not as good. And so there are definitely like lulls and drags in that show that come and go. And it is over the top kind of in the right way. I will say I like the update to some of the characters that removes a little bit of the two extremes, like I was mentioning, with the one character not being so like overtly horn doggy. So
Or
yeah, I think that it's
subversively horn doggy.
Yes.
yeah. It's kind of due for an update. I have intended, like I've given up, and I'm like, I'm not fucking watching 1,000 episodes, or even if I have 500 of them that I have to get through because I've already watched it. I'm like, I'm not going to. I have thought about reading the comic to compare it to that. And honestly, I'm like, it's more tackleable because I got through all of Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball,
Which is
Dragon
a
Ball
lot.
Z, and Dragon Ball Super up into catching up, which is a lot, and it didn't take that long. I was kind of surprised of how fast I could get through it. So I've kind of been thinking about going back and going through all the comic.
Yeah, you have to wait. Like you can tell when they're buying time in the TV show versus like, you read a book, you can get through the fucking words and the word bubbles, graphic novel, any of that. You're like,
Yeah, pretty quick. Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah. Well, cool. I am going to check it out. I don't have a Netflix subscription right now. Kind of waiting for when several other shows align. And then I'll just fucking go watch it and
Hang out for
check it out.
Castlevania at the end of it's the end of this month.
Yeah, I think so. There's that. There's like some new thing from Mike Flanagan, who did Haunting of Hill House, and
What's the vampire show that you
I was just trying to
gave me?
remember
Yeah,
because I'm too drunk now.
I don't remember.
But
The horror Christianity vampire show on Netflix.
Jesus is a vampire. Everybody,
You type that into the search and see what comes up.
Yeah. I mean, that's every vampire thing. to
Midnight
some
Mass.
degree. Midnight Mass.
Midnight
Mass.
Mass. Everybody, I'm a Catholic. I remember that. Sure. But yeah, cool. Well, you would recommend this then, Ryan?
Yeah, I do recommend it.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well, I think that brings us around. A recommend for the 46 Beauty and the Beast from Dixon.
Yes, sir.
An on the animated, and a nope on the live action readaptation. John, something.
Overruled
Talked
on
about
Mr.
something.
Rico?
Yeah, talked about something.
Overruled?
Got overruled.
Yeah.
Told us how.
recommendation for the Amityville Horror.
Amityville Horror.
1979. Yeah.
Yep. Shout out for Res Dogs, and I recommend One Piece. And that will bring us to a close. I have been your host, Ryan King, and with me, as always,
John Garcia. Be careful which house you move into, folks. It could have some kind of scam where you could sell your rights to a book publisher. Who knows?
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
That's the real horror of capitalism.
do you have to follow through that the house compels you to sell this story?
Until you're suing your stepchildren.
The power of real estate compels you.
The power of house compels you. Yeah.
And also joining us tonight,
Michael Dixon, thanks for putting up with our bullshit.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.